Everyone,
Good morning, Rabbi.
we're learning Mishna Nazir, Perek Beis, Chapter 2, Mishnah Tes, Mishnah 9. Okay, so a person says, Hareini Nazir, v'Nazir Shirli Bain. I am hereby a Nazir, and a Nazir when I have a son. So how many Naziris is that? 2. He's first saying, I am a Nazir, plain. And then he says, and I'll be a Nazir when I have a son. Okay. His chomayne eshaloi, he began to count his. Count is the word that's used when he's talking about observing his Naziris. So he began to count his. V'achar kach noilei bein. Then after that, he had a son. So we have here so what do we have here? We have 2 acceptances of Naziris. The first one is just I'm a Nazir. That takes effect right away. The Naziris that he accepts when he has a son will take effect when he has a son. Now here the case is he's still in the middle of the call it what the Mishnah is going to call his Naziris, because that's just what he took on his own. That began in the middle of that. The Naziris for his son should be beginning. So what happens then when they overlap? Says the Mishnah, Mashlam Eshaloi, he completes his. His refers to the Naziris he just took regularly. And then after that, he goes ahead and he counts his sons. His sons doesn't mean his son is a Naziris, but the Naziris that he took for his son. So basically, what's happening here is he declared the, regular, let's call it his Naziris first, and he began that. So even though he had a son, which would say that the other Naziris should take effect, since the Naziris that his Naziris, he took upon himself first. So therefore, we say that he concludes his Naziris, brings the offerings, goes through the whole ritual that's needed when a Nazir completes his Naziris, and then he starts the second one to fulfill the Naziris that he took upon himself for his son. Okay? So that's the first case. The next case is like this. Hareini Nazir Ksheli Bain. The Nazir. Here again, he's taking upon himself 2 Naziris, 2 terms of Naziris. However, he first said, I'm a Nazir when I have a son. And then he says, and I'm a Nazir and then separately, I'm also going to be a Nazir, just without anything to do with my son, with a son. Now, in that case, the Naziris for the son hasn't taken effect yet. The son hasn't been born. The Naziris that we call his Naziris, it can take effect right now. No reason not to. And therefore, the case here is, his chomayne eshaloi, he began to count his, meaning he began doing his Naziris, and before he completed it, he had a son. And now the Naziris from the son takes effect. Now, in this case, which Naziris did he take upon himself first? The Naziris of the son. And therefore, in this case, we say, Maniach esh shaloi, he has to leave his, meaning he's got to basically stop doing his, umayda esh shel benoi, and begin counting the Naziris of his son. V'achar kach mashlam esh shaloi, and then after that, he is going to complete his. So what it sounds like here is that, so in the case where he took upon himself the Naziris if he has a son first. Okay, but he didn't have the son yet. And he also took upon himself a separate Naziris. No. So that separate Naziris, there's no reason for it not to start right away. But in the middle, what happened was the son was born, which means the Naziris of the son that he took upon himself if he has a son should now take effect because he had a son. But he's in the middle of the other one. But here the difference is than before is because here he took upon himself the Naziris. He mentioned that first. He took that upon himself first. And therefore it takes precedence. So let's say this person went ahead and he began his Naziris for his his Naziris. And then in the middle of that, the son was born. So what happens is he's got to, as the Mishnah says, he's got to now do the Naziris for his son. Let's say a 30-day Naziris for his son. Finish it. Go through the process of what a Nazir has to do when he finishes his carbon. And then after that, he completes his. Meaning he goes back to the Naziris that he started before, which was his Naziris, nothing to do with the son being born, and he finishes it. And when he finishes it, then he'll have to again bring another set of karbanis and go through the whole ritual for the other Naziris. Because in all these cases, in all these scenarios, there are two Naziris that have to take place. Now, in this last case, there's something very important to go ahead and clarify. And that's the following. If, let's say, we're talking about that, the Naziris that he took on his own, it doesn't say in the Mishnah how much he took upon himself. So let's say if it's your basic Naziris, how long is the minimum Naziris? You take upon yourself Naziris. You don't clarify for how long. What's the minimum length?
30 days.
30 days. So let's say he took upon himself, when he said Hareini Nazir, just plain Naziris, it was a 30-day Naziris. He counted 20. Then his son was born. So the Mishnah says, okay, you got to stop yours. You got to now go take care of the Naziris that you took upon yourself if you have a son. Okay, and let's assume that one's also 30 days. All right, so he's going to have to go now. Now he's going to have to keep 30 days, meaning another 30 days, in order to fulfill the Naziris he took upon himself for his son. And then he's going to finish it. He's going to go ahead, cut his hair, bring the karbanis, and then what? The Mishnah says go back. Yeah, 1 second. Another 10, that would sound like another 10 days. Which means now he's got to do it. It would sound like the Mishnah is saying he's got to go back to the first Naziris, which was a 30-day Naziris. He only kept 20 of it. So now he's got to keep another 10 days to finish that one. That is what it would sound like. But that's not the halacha. Because as we're going to learn soon, the halacha is a Nazir never cuts his hair unless it was a 30-day growth. It's got to be a 30-day growth of Naziris before he can cut it off. And therefore, if all he had left was 10 days, not going to work. He's actually going to have to do another 30 days.
Start again?
Yep. He's going to have to do another 30 days as the completion for the first Naziris, which he couldn't just do 10 days. He had to do 30 days because he can't cut his hair if he doesn't have a 30-day growth. But if, let's say, the case was that, let's say, he went ahead and the first Naziris that he took upon himself, just for numbers wise, was a 50-day Naziris. And he kept 20 of it. And then his son was born, which then means he has to now start the Naziris for his son. He does, let's say that was a 30-day Naziris, or whatever it was, right? Whatever amount of time it was, he does the Naziris for his son. He completes it, cuts his hair, brings the karbanis. Now he's got to finish. How many days left does he have from his first Naziris to finish? 30. He's got 30 days. So in that situation, just finish. Because then you'll have the 30-day growth when you cut your hair. So when the Mishnah says you just finish yours, in the case of where the son was born and the Naziris for the son was the first one that he took upon himself, which now obligates him to interrupt his first Naziris to fulfill that Naziris, when the Mishnah says you complete it, completing it has to mean that you have to do at least 30 days and for the completion of your first. If it means that it's more than you would have done if you would have completed it, that's the way it is. If it comes out being that it works out that that's the amount of time or whatever it was left to complete it, then it works out that way.
Okay.
Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi.
So a question.